like seriously jeopardizing or seriously harming civilians?
So on the talks, I can tell you, having been with Steve and Jared and the Vice President and Marco and many others yesterday, they are very real. They are ongoing. They're active, and I think gaining strength. And we appreciate that. As I said in my remarks, we would much prefer to get a deal. If Iran was willing to relinquish material they have and ambitions they have, open this, great. That's the goal. We don't want to have to do more militarily than we have to. But I didn't mean it flippantly when I said, in the meantime, we'll negotiate with bombs. Our job is to ensure that we compel Iran to realize that this new regime, this regime in charge, is in a better place if they make that deal. And so we'll continue. We're working hand in hand, but the primary effort is a deal. We want that deal to be accomplished if at all possible. If not, then we're prepared to continue.
Secretary, what happened at
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We're always thinking about those considerations and develop options to be able to mitigate those risks pursuant to the normal practices that we do in the military. So.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I know you slightly addressed this already, but just on the Strait of Hormuz, is opening the strait an essential objective to Operation Epic Fury, or is that the job of those other countries? And then secondly, without asking you to comment on things that you can't talk about, what is your message to Americans who love the president and strongly believe in him, but are very worried about this notion of boots on the ground?
Well, first on the Strait of Hormuz, our core objectives from this podium, from day one, from me, from the chairman, from the president, from the vice president, from Secretary Rubio and others have been clear. Defense missile production and missile programs, so their entire missile program, defense industrial base and production ability to build, and Navy and power projection. So those have, and then of course, wrapping it all is Iran's never going to have a nuclear weapon. So those have been very clear. Defeating the Navy is a core part of ensuring they can't project that kind of power. But ultimately, I think the president's truth this morning lays that out very well, that this Strait of Hormuz issue, which we've set the conditions for success, and we will make sure Iran knows that very clearly, is not just a United States of America problem set. We've been willing to lead. President Trump's led the entire time, but it's not just us. So ultimately, I think other countries should pay attention when the president speaks. He's proven that when he speaks, he means something. And he's pointing out, you might want to start learning how to fight for yourself. It's something some of us have been saying for quite some time. You can't just have flags, you have to have formations. You can't just have a few ships, you have enough to affect change. Those things matter in a dangerous world with ascendant adversaries. That's why the chairman's talking about our industrial base. That's why we're launching the Arsenal of Freedom tour to revive our defense industrial base. President Trump doing it in a way that nobody else has. As far as President Trump and boots on the ground, I don't understand why the base, which they have already, they understand, wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record of pursuing peace through strength, America first outcomes. And what he's simply saying, and it's exactly true, and I've said from this podium too, we're not going to foreclose any option. You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are. So if we needed to, we could execute those options on behalf of the President of the United States and this department. Or maybe we don't have to use them at all. Maybe negotiations work, or maybe there's a different approach. But the point is to be unpredictable in that. Certainly not let anybody know what you're willing to do or not do. But if anybody has internalized the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan as the first one, President Trump, to call them out for what they are, he's not going to repeat those lessons. And I think I've been very clear about that from the podium.
Yes. Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. A question for you and then a question for General Kane. You said we're a month into the Operation Epic Fury. How long until the objectives are achieved? And is there a scenario where a deal is struck before the objectives have been achieved? And then for General Kane, there's been lots of media coverage that suggested a ground invasion is imminent. What other purposes might the soldiers and the Marines who have been deployed over to the Middle East serve in this conflict?
Well, just like the previous question, it's sort of military 101. Don't tell your enemy what you're willing to do or not do, and don't tell your enemy when you're willing to stop, especially an enemy that likes to hide in bunkers and try to hoard their missiles and hope you'll wait you out. So that's not a question I'm going to answer, or the president has said definitively. We have our own goals and guidance and things military objectives that we're moving toward and things that we look at. And as he's articulated, he's said 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 3 weeks.
All right. Closing. Now, I can't tell if it's actually streaming or not. Looks like it's live. Yeah. All right. Well, folks, good morning. It is 8:37 a.m. on March 31st, and let's take a look at the markets. As we can see, overnight, the markets have been up. The Russell is at 2466.5. It's up 1.5%. It looks like across the board, most of the major indexes are up at the moment. What I just was listening to was the Pete Hegseth was talking. So overnight, we had it play around on some levels, all of the indexes. You can even see that crypto was down significantly overnight. It went down to about 66,000 Bitcoin. And now it's back up to 67,000. It's positive again for the day. So there's good news. That's the idea of, I think, what we're hearing. And so we were just watching Bloomberg this morning, and Pete Hegseth was speaking, and Trade Representative Greer. And what we saw was they were saying that they have a better handle on the war. What does that mean for us? Not a whole lot. Until we actually see some de-escalation or we see some major changes, I'm going to treat it as business as usual. They're talking about putting boots on the ground on Karg Island. I heard, all of this could escalate things. But at the moment, we have good news, so the market is rebounding. This morning we have some speakers in Europe, and then nothing until about 10 a.m. we have JOLTS, which is the job openings, and we have some consumer confidence numbers coming out. Around noon, we have some speakers, a couple of Fed speakers today, actually noon, then again at 3 and later on after the market close. And we'll get then some manufacturing numbers from China then later as well. So that's a look at the news overnight. I don't think otherwise there was anything worth talking about. Let's take a look at some of the major indexes, and we can see that the major indexes are generally up overnight, but we had some positivity in Europe. You can see the FTSE is up, the stocks is up, but in Asia we saw softness. So we saw the Shanghai index, the Hang Seng, is flat. The Nifty is down. That's India. So we do see some mix there. and it's not a straight picture. So what does that mean to us, how we're going to trade today? Let's take a look at some of the indexes, and let's pull this one up. This is the 15-minute chart on the Russell 2000, and you can see overnight. I'm going to zoom in, and overnight, basically, here's where the market closed, right? So yesterday, the market went all the way up, and then at 10 a.m., it dumped. It went all the way down here to this support level that I had marked out. Then we came all the way back. What time was that? Around 10 o'clock at night. We came all the way back. Look at that, straight back up to the top, basically where we had closed the day. And then we've been hovering in this channel. And you could see the value area gap here. And we're in the value area that we're in, this big wide band. We're at the top of this value area, to the bottom of the value area. I'm not certain that we don't stay in this band. So let's say today, if we could stay above this level, then we might pull up and then come back down to the bottom of this level. We might just go down and come back up. I don't know, right? If I zoom out a little bit more, let's look at the 1 hour chart. And on the 1 hour chart, you can see we are clearly in this downtrend, but we've been holding this bottom. So do we continue down to the bottom where there's this big meaty value area right over here? So we're currently at 2465 towards the bottom of this value area. But when you zoom in on a daily, we definitely have room to come down. And I would suspect that we might come back down to 2455 if anything, and then maybe we bounce up to 2500 again if today is as positive as they're trying to suggest in the news. Again, yesterday we started strong and then we bounced down lower. I don't know that we don't continue that trend today, because as you can see, even the hourly, all of my 3 indicators are still pointing down on 1 hour. You get down to the 15-minute and they're sideways. 1 and 3. Channel 2 is a little bit up, but yeah, channel 2 on the 30-minute, we haven't made it too far. So what I would say is, even if you look at the 30-minute, 2500 is the top. The bottom is really coming back down here to the 2440. So if I was going to trade this and I thought I was going to trade long, I might trade, I'd wait till it comes down to the bottom, like around 24.29, and see what happens around here. If it hits 24.15, then comes back to 24.29 and works its way up, that might be a good long trade to try to catch the reversal on the Russell 2000. Let's take a look now at the Dow, because the Dow might play different. Let's see. Sort of a sim setup. We've been honoring that 45,500 level as a support. We dipped down here last night, you could see, in this value area. And now, this value area gap, there's a little bit of a value area gap here. So we're in that value area gap. Now, what does that mean to us? If we can go above this level, so we're at 46,000. If we stay above 46,000, I see it continuing back to the highs here of 46.8. Let's zoom out on the 1 hour and see what that looks like. So a little tough, because on my trend channels, even the 1 hours, my first channel is up, but 2 and 3 are down, and they align at around 46.6. That's also about where the 38.2 Fibonacci is, and that might be the top there. So what we might see is a bounce up, and then it can come down, back down again like it did yesterday, unless there's, again, the continuation above this level and you see it going up. What does that mean for my trade? If I see it come down to about, let's say, 45.6, I would consider going long from 45.6 back up and see what happens. And then you keep a tight trail and and hold it that way. Zooming out a little bit further and you look at the daily, you can see we're really at the bottom of this value area. There is a magnet at 46,500, about 500 points higher than we are now. That's a good day. So we're up 1% today, which is about 500 points. We definitely can have a 2% day, hit 46.5, but I don't know where we go from there. And even then, we're still stuck in this downward trend on the daily. On the 4 hour, let's take a look at what that looks like. 4 hour, even if we pull back up to this 45.6, which is that magnet I was talking about, we're still on this downward trend. So I'd like to see it then try to break through. And you can see, look at this value area gap over here. It's between, let's say, 47,000 all the way up to almost 49,000. You know, that's a big gap. And I would expect us to fill that pretty quickly, right? We traversed that gap in, you know, less than a couple weeks. So I think the way back up should be similarly quick if that happens on the Dow. So today, like I said, we're going to look for 45,000 on a low. I would enter in at 45.4 perhaps if I see a rebound, right? So that's the whole thing. I'm looking for the bounce up. Now you see when I zoom in on the 15-minute chart on the Dow, you see that we had this downtrend. It was locked in. We were below our trend line. Here we're above the trend line. My 3 channels are pointing up. We're in this big value area gap right now. So, you know, what happens here? It likely traverses through it. So I would like to see it come up to 46.3 and continue to 46.6 today. If it does not, then we're back down to this 45 level. And if I see it hit 45, then I would consider it maybe, let's say, going down, right? A lot of that will depend on the first 5 minutes of the day, but you can get an idea. If you start to see this really collapse past this level of 45.8, it's probably collapsing. Let's take a look now at the S&P. S&P on the 15-minute, you can see that we've been trading inside a sideways channel basically since last Friday. We went down to about 63.52, came all the way up to 64.62, where we are right now. And we're at the top of this value area. Now, my trend channels are pointing upwards. We're above the trend line, but we're at the top of the value area, so I would not be a buyer here. I would like to see it pull back down to 64,000 before it would go and accelerate back across this gap. The gap is between, let's say, 64.80 and about 65.80. I would love to see it go right zoom past up that gap, and everything was hunky-dory. So let's say we're gonna look for SPY, come back down here to 64.13 after open, and then look for a bounce up unless it continues to run. And that would be if it really held 64.70 and continued running up above that. Now let's look at SPY for a minute to just get an idea what that looks like on SPY. So on SPY, my level is 640.37. That would be the top today. If it breaks above this level, you know, then we're looking for long. And likewise, if it breaks below 634, then we're looking short on the day. Now, let's zoom out on the SPY daily. And this is what I want to look at and talk about. I'm going to actually zoom out all the way to the weekly just to show you over the years since about, let's say, 2020, we had when 2020 we had COVID, we fell about 120 points. Then Betty White died, the Russia-Ukraine war, we fell about 120 points. Then tariffs, and we fell about 120 points. My question is, with this Iran war, do we fall the 120 points, or do we fall to about 600 and hold here before we continue going back up? We're well underneath this trend line on the weekly. As I zoom in, we're still under the trend line on the daily. except for channel 3, channels 1 and 2 are still pointing down. So now let's keep zooming in. Channel on the 4 hour, and all 3 channels are still pointing straight down. In fact, they're pointing to the 600 level, right? So, you know, as a trader, I want the SPY to go up, but more than likely it's still pointing down, and I'm not long on SPY yet until I can see some sort of indication that it's reversing out of here. Let's look at QQQ for a minute. QQQ has a very similar picture to SPY, and it makes sense. They share many of the same assets in their indexes, whereas the SPY has some Dow components and the NASDAQ has more technology. SPY kind of blends those two together. Now, again, on QQQ, you could see a bottom here of 555.41. We are trading at 558 right now. I would imagine there's some sort of top a little bit higher at around 569. Now let's zoom in a little bit closer. Let's look at the 15-minute and what that would look like. You could see that for a few days last week, we were going sideways, just sideways. Then Friday, we took a dip. And yesterday, we went up, then took a big dip down. Today, we came back up just about to where the close is. And we're a little bit below the close, but we're still going sideways. So even though good news this morning with a little bit of a pump in the market, I don't see us pumping too hard before we pull back again today. And we can take a look at MNQ and see what that looks like in MNQ to give us some levels there. So if you're trading the NASDAQ directly, we would look for a level of, let's say, 23,259 to be below. And if you're above, then we're looking for 23,414, that it should continue across this gap back up to this 23456 level. Now that would be cool. Get to the 23456 level, and then maybe there's continuation up. Channel 1 does have upward momentum, and 2 and 3 are sort of sideways. So I think we might hit here maybe around 23,533, 534, but I don't think we go above that. And I think we stay below that, and then we can come back down again later in the day, or we'll bounce around here during the week until this war is over. I don't see us bouncing all the way back up here. I don't know about you. Let's see. What else should we look at? Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin took a little bit of a rebound this morning, and we are here on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at 67,000. Again, you see it's the top of this value area is around 67,000. The channels are all pointing down on the 15-minute. 66 is the bottom, and we were there last night. We were there actually up until about 6 a.m. At 6 a.m., we took a big bump up. I had a little trade actually around 4 or 5 a.m., I think, on the Russell. Like, just made a few dollars. I took the bounce from here to here, and that's it. And I cashed out, and I think, today's all about that, is just taking profit where you can. So I'm not looking for Bitcoin to make a big recovery yet. I don't see that trend happening. When it does, we'll find it with our channels. So let's take a look. Something else today. Let's take a look. We have copper, platinum, silver, and gold. Now they're all heading up, as well as natural gas and oil. I told you guys yesterday, natural gas was like really low and underpriced, and we needed to buy some of it. Well, today it's up 1.7%, which if you bought natural gas, that's a lot of money. I mean, that's a big move. You could have made some good coin on that. So I hope you guys did. Now let's take a look at oil real quick. MCL. And so on oil, oh, hello, Blue Jay. There's a beautiful Blue Jay by my window right now. Couldn't get a picture of him. He was a little too fast. Okay, so let's see. Let's take a look at oil. We're at $103 a barrel. basically we've been going sideways since yesterday. We did spike up to 106. We came right back down to about 100. Now we're at 103. I think we trade the range. I see that my channels 1, 2, and 3 are pointing up. I don't have a trade here at the moment, right? So we would need to either pull back to 100 and then go long if it continues long, or if it then doesn't hold that 100 and it breaks below there, you see this big value area gap that it could fill, and that would be a great opportunity to play it short with a target of, let's say, $91 a barrel. Let's take a look at Chevron just to take an example and see what's going on with Chevron. Chevron's following a very similar pattern. It bounced off of 218 this past weekend, which you couldn't trade it anyway. And it's been going sideways, basically following what oil is doing. Now, I expect oil to continue trading kind of weird until there's some sort of settlement with the war. Now, XLE is the energy ETF. It has all of the different energy companies within it. And you could see very similar to like Chevron, ExxonMobil. They're all going to follow this pattern right now. And their pattern is kind of just working its way out. We could look for XLE. It's at 62. We could see it hit 63. It did hit 63 yesterday, and then it backed all the way off to like 61.5, where it's now settling at 62. It's following energy. So basically whatever oil is going to do, that's kind of what XLE is doing. Utilities, I believe, is also going to kind of follow that, and you can see utilities have been on a nice trend up. I like utilities, 15-minute chart, that looks pretty good. Let's open up the daily, and again, you can see that this is a wonderful idea where you buy the dip on utilities. You're not going to make a lot of money. It's not a big mover, right? It went from 42 to 46, but that's enough for you to make a nice little profit, especially if you're playing with, bigger lots, and you could sell calls against your position, or if you're trading options. I still see room for the utilities to continue running up. It looks like it has room to go up to 47.5. I think at 46, if you wanted to play, like, let's say the options on that, you could go out to, let's say, May and buy something like the 46 for about a buck, right? Buck and a quarter. And, that would be an inexpensive option to play. Yeah. So let's look at the natural gas. The natural gas is really, really exploding. Pardon the punny. So right now we've got natural gas sitting at 294. That's that big move up I mentioned. You see this tall tail. We were down here. I knew it wasn't going to hold. I'm looking for natural gas to come right back up to like this magnet 3.1 area. We have the momentum today, I think, to do that. Let's look at the 4-hour chart, and we can see even on the 4-hour chart, you have the top of my 1, 2, and 3 channel. They're in the meat of this value area. So let's see closer in. Let's look at the 15-minute. That's a huge, like, Viagra-like spike. It's incredible. I don't know what happened at 8 o'clock this morning, but it went from $2.80 right up to here, $2.94. Just to give you an idea of how much that is, if you traded one contract with a margin of $650, for every thousandth of a penny, it's $1. So do the math, right? Every thousandth of a penny, and it went up, it's still running. It went up 10 cents. So 10 cents times 1,000? No, 100. And then how many contracts you have. So that would be a nice little move, because you could, at $650 margin, you can have a bunch of contracts, right? Or if you had the big one, a bigger one like NG, and you traded that, the move there would have been, you would have had to just have $6,500 of margin, and then you're moving $10 for every thousandth. That's nice money right there. So look at this. It really, it's going right up to this value area gap, and it looks like it wants to close it all the way back up to 3. I don't know. I wouldn't get it in here. This is too much of a fast run for me to get in. It's hard to get in when you see things move like really that fast. But betting man, you know, I would say it's going to continue. I don't like where it is at the moment. You know, you're at a Fibonacci level of 61.8 on the 5-minute, and that's kind of scary. You went past my 3 channels. I mean, like, you're at the top of this value area. There is a gap over here. So, you know, I think we're gonna wait on that. Yeah, on natural gas. All right, let's take a look at what else we got. The gold. My goodness, let's look at gold. Maybe we're gonna trade gold today. Let's see. Gold is ramping up. You can see on the 5-minute we've been on a nice upward trend. Let's zoom out to the 1 hour just to see. Again, nice upward trend. We're at this value area gap. We're at the top here. It's hard to buy it here because it might just bounce back down to the bottom of the value area. However, the trend is up. We're above the trend line. The 3 channels are all pointing up on the 1 hour. On the 15-minute, I mean, like every time level, you could basically see the trend is up for gold. So I'm going to say this looks like a good opportunity for gold to go long. We're at 4,600 on gold. Gold can easily move 2-3% a day. Some days we've seen it move up to 5%. So if we've seen it move 5%, that's nothing. We're at where that could bridge that gap to 5,000 like that, right? Just a couple of sessions, and I think we're there. So let's look for gold to rebound from here. I'm long gold. I just bought Barrick gold to add to my my collection long term, because I think long term Barrick gold, it's going to follow what gold is, and it's up a little bit overnight as well. Another one you could trade would be like Cordura mining, Core mining, whatever. It's 16.5, actually 17 now overnight. It closed at 16.5. It's up. It's following gold. Let's take a look at silver. Silver's at 72.80, almost 73. Again, rebounding. Very similar picture to gold. We're looking for it to continue today on an upward trend. It's pulling back right now just a little bit to the bottom of the value area, but I would expect as 9:30 comes around, we're going to see some more volatility just because, right? So if you're trading silver, you're going to want to watch this area between 72.60 and 70.58. It can traverse that area very quickly because that's where the gap is on the 5-minute. You know, we zoom out to the 1 hour. You don't see it as much on that, but you do see it, right? You see where that level is at 70.86. It's a bit, that's like, we're going sideways. So it's very possible for silver to reclaim that 66 level. But right now, I don't know if that's going to happen. We can take a look at copper. And copper, I like to play the proxy for that, like Freeport-McMoRan or ERO copper. Look at this. We're at the top of the value area. There's a huge gap right there. I love that. We have so much room to just run right across there, back up to 585. Look at that magnet there. It's just sitting there on the hourly waiting for us. Now, I'll say that on my channel 1 on the hourly we're up, but 2 and 3 are sideways. That means that, you know, this 1 hour channel, it's pretty locked in at sideways. So it's going to be hard to make it above this level. I do think that we probably come back down to the 5.3 at some point before we go back up again, but I don't know, right? So I'm going to look for this to continue long. I have copper I am long copper in the long term, and I think that we have the possibility. You can even see on the on this 4-hour chart, my channel 3, the outside, is at the bottom of this value area at 575. We can make it to 575. That would be good for copper, and it would really help me out with my Freeport McMoran that I'm holding. So here's Freeport McMoran at 54.5. And you can see it's had a really nice trend overall. It's following the same thing as copper. It went up. Look at this, up, pulled back. It's resisting. It's almost like an inverted head and shoulders. So I'd like to see it finish this head. Here's the shoulder, and then it should continue back up to this like 62 at least. Now, copper does have, its price target is pretty high relatively. So again, you can even see ERO copper, very similar sort of pattern. It's at 25. It's a little more affordable than Freeport McMoran. But either one of these, you could buy, let's say with ERO copper, you could buy 100 shares at 25. It's like $2,500, and then you could always sell a call out on it. The 30, you're going to get about $1. But man, you got $1 plus the delta between 30 and here of 25. That's just nice money to put in your pocket, right? And that puts you right at the price of that magnet, and you don't really have to worry too much. If you lose the shares, you lose the shares. You made money. If you don't lose the shares, whatever. Some people don't like to cap their earnings, they say, but sometimes having that security helps. In a sideways or a downward market, selling calls against your position might be the only money you make. Look at the euro. Okay, so we have the euro is bouncing back. It was really low at 1.15. I was kind of concerned that we weren't going to make it back with the euro. So let's take a look at the euro. M6E. Now we've been following, again, the sideways pattern, somewhere at the bottom of 1.1514. And then we come all the way back up to this like 1.18 level. I'd like to see it come back there. Now, it's kind of hard to sit through this because, each 10,000ths is $1.25. Massive amounts of money you can make trading the euro, but you have to be able to sit through losses. We're still below the trend line right now, so I'm thinking we come back down before we head back up. And that's as simple as that. I'd like to see us, but okay, now I'll take that back with a little grain of salt, because I zoom into the 15-minute. My channel 1 and 2 are slightly positive, and we're at the bottom of the value area. This is a great place to buy because it might just go right back up to 1.59. We're at the bottom of this value area. If it can hold the value area, I would say, we definitely have a possibility to make it back, all the way up to that level. And this is very strong, right? This is a very strong move. So what happened here, I'm not really sure. Let's look for a little bit of a pullback to like 1.1545. And then I would go long to, let's say, I would try to just take profit pretty quickly at 1.585. Just to make a little bit of a day trade here. Now that we looked at some of these currencies and indexes and everything, and you can see this is the trend of the euro. We're at the bottom of our trend, and it can go all the way up here to 1.2, which I thought that's what, when Trump took his presidency, that's what he was aiming for, to devalue the dollar. But no, we have a very strong dollar. So, let's take a look at Tesla. We'll take a look at some of the top numbers today. Tesla is at 360. It's $5 up off of yesterday. Concern is we're still in this value area gap that extends from 355 all the way up to this like 390 level. We're right in the middle of that on the daily. It's kind of scary. but I think long term we'll do well. Let's look at the hourly, and you can see what we've been doing. Lower lows, lower highs, not a good thing. All my channels are pointing downward. Would love to see a reversal though. So let's say we see a reversal. What would that look like? Let's come in a little closer on the 15-minute. Now, a lot of this is going to depend on the day, but you could see that we're already at 360, which is the bottom of this value area. If that's the case and we're able to hold 360, then we should be able to make it to the top of the value area, let's say 365 today, and that should be, very achievable. If we don't, then we're looking back at the lows of 351, and then I don't really want to know what happens below there because I don't know what's the opposite of blue skies. Like, that's just like dark earth. Yeah. I'm not sure. That doesn't look good. But I would like to see it reverse out of here. Let's take a look at Amazon. And I think the reason why I'm saying I like to reverse out of here is that what's the reason that these things are going like down so much? I don't understand. I don't see the catalyst for that. The country's not out of business. Amazon, I see we had a low of about 196. We didn't touch that low. We stayed above it overnight. And we're still in this downward trend on the 4-hour, but at the lower side of the value area. So at 205, where we are now, we've entered the value area. We definitely can make it to 212 again. If we make it to 212, then there's a gap here up to 220. If we make it to 220, then we can continue up to the top of 230, and so on and so forth. Now you can see on the 4-hour, the channels are sideways, downward on the daily. So I am not really certain what happens, but we're at the bottom of the value area. Look at that. Look at that. You see the value area right there starting at 205, going all the way up to 215. Look at that meat. So we should be playing in that meat. That means a lot of people want to buy in that level, right? So that's where I think we end up going. So if you're long Amazon, you bought here, just hold, right? And then you get up to 215 and you want to sell a call or something like that, you could do that, or a 220. But I would try to see, a little bit of a move back up here before I sold anything. Even on the 1-hour, there is that magnet to 209. So you might be able to go long Amazon today. Microsoft is again up a little bit overnight. It's above the trend line. That's good. You could see it's done that in the past, but it really hasn't done much. I'd like to see, Microsoft break out of this pattern and reverse out, but it's in a very strong channel downward. I see a downward trend. I zoom out on Microsoft, and even on the weekly, we broke below where I wanted to. There is support here at 344. So, if you don't have Microsoft, I would be adding anywhere below 360. Even here. I would just be adding to my my position long term and hold this forever kind of thing. I think Microsoft is great. Look at where I kind of chart it to go out. It's heading towards 600. So we're looking at it in the next year or two, it could double. I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking long term, right? Oracle, let's see. Oracle also, it's at this very strong support at 138. It's now at 140 today. I think it makes its way back up to the 175 level, maybe 180. And then we're in a better situation because we're above that weekly trend line. And, that's what we're looking for, to be above that weekly trend line. Now, let's zoom in a little bit. And, if you want to trade it today, we're looking for this. There's a value area gap here between 142.57 and 140.84. So what I would think is if we break above this, you could target 142.51 as an exit today, and then 143.83 tomorrow. Mind the gap here, right? So we could stair step our way back up on Oracle if this trend continues. So just to pull up some other names, I see NVIDIA. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. What's NVIDIA doing? NVIDIA, my little buddy. You're my video card. Yay! So NVIDIA is up. It's at 167. It closed at 165. Again, it's a very similar story to the other assets we've been looking at, where you can expect some sort of top at around 170 and a bottom, around this like 165 area, right? So we're looking in this $5 range where it's trading. There are some pockets where it doesn't trade as much, but we're in a meaty area. So I would look for a continuation up today before it kind of comes down, and that might take the NASDAQ and the S&P up with us as well, right? Let's take a look at Micron. Memory is so important, mostly because I can't remember anything without writing it down, and that's why we need memory for our computers. That's not why, but what I see is with Micron is down right now. It closed at 321.80 yesterday. We're at 320 right now. That's not really a great sign. I would like to see us kind of moving up through and across this value area gap back up to the 370s. Long term, maybe, but today, right now, I don't see a trade. Zooming out, you could see we entered this gap, and this is a very dangerous place. We may not stay here. We may crash all the way down, or, wonderful thing, we might bounce off this 313 Fibonacci level and make our way back up to the top, which I think is much more likely. I don't think memory is going away. I think this war just kind of slowed things down. So what I'd like to see is a bottom at around 307 and then, reverse back up on Micron. So now, what else would we like to look at this morning before the market opens? Let's pull up the market sectors and take a look, just scan real quick. Now, we see that utilities have been on this upward tear. That's pretty nice. Energy, upward tear. Financials are starting to recover. Healthcare looks like it has a bottom over here at 144 and maybe will reverse out to 150. I would like to see, these technology at XLK. It's been on a downward trend. We're up a couple points overnight, but I don't see that we've broken the downward trend. I don't see that we broke the downward trend on XLY. I don't know about that. Now, real estate wants to come back. I like the idea of buying different REITs. And yesterday I looked at buying AMT as a REIT because I think that we still need cell phone towers and it pays a small dividend, but at least I get some money in my pocket while I wait for it to recover. So I like some real estate actually right now. XLP has been on a nice trend upwards. You can see we're at the top of the value area and there is a big gap over here. So now if we can make it above here, make it above this 82.5 level, it'll continue up to 84, and I think that's a great trend. XLB, the construction, building supplies and stuff like that, that's also up overnight, close to 49.8. I would like to see it reach that 50.25 level today if it can, and then possibly continue back up and above there. But right now I don't have that. Let's take a look. I want to just go back here and look where we are with the VIX. The VIX fell pretty sharply so far. We're at 28. Yesterday we hit 31, and I was saying when it hit 31, that's a great time to buy SPY because it means like everyone's panicking, and SPY probably fell. that's like an indication of what's a great time to buy is when everyone's panicking, right? The tick right now is off about 139 points, but that doesn't mean anything because the market didn't open yet. So we're going to wait for the market to open, and then we'll see what to do. Right now, let's say if we're going to do some trades, we're still waiting to see what the market does. Going to look for something over here to cross through over here. Let's say if you were looking at the NASDAQ, but right now, I don't got nothing. Let's see. What do I have on my scanner? Do I have anything? Again, I have materials coming up on my scanner, which did not, completely fill yet. So, let's see. Zoom out on the daily. It's pulling up this pharmaceutical company. Interesting. I would look to enter this closer to 25 flat rather than this 26 level, probably, but it does have, it looks like it's starting to reverse out. Let me pull up that other chart here. You can see on this 4-hour, yeah, I would want to get in at 25.40 and then hope for some sort of reversal out of there if you were looking at this, but I'm not. Gold, we talked about already. GLD, it's another proxy for gold, and I think it's a good one to get our morning going for gold. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to get a drink before the market opens, and I'll be right back. Let me bring up my screen so you guys have something to look at. Alrighty, folks, I'm back. I know you guys missed me. I'm here. Don't worry about it. Imagine that, a live stream, nobody watching. Wow, natural gas. What a rip. Harley, man. This morning, Harley had a rip. Killed me. Killed me. Harley's the cat. Bitcoin's back at 67,000. Look at that. NASDAQ's pumping up to 23.39, 23.4. Are we going to see 2,500 on the Russell today? 46,200 maybe on the Dow? Do you think we make it up to 6,500 on the S&P? What's your bet? You got a bet? You got comedy? You're going to make me laugh? Some got jokes this morning? So we got 5 fun views I see so far this morning. And we've got a couple of people watching, but that's pretty cool. Market should open in another 5 minutes. Let's pull up the S&P, see how we're doing there. And we'll zoom into the 5. And this is always exciting, watching the morning madness, so to speak. This is the Russell, just looking at the Russell right now. You need like $1,300 margin to trade the Russell, the micro mini. The ES, the micro mini is 2,500 roughly, 3,000 to trade it. And there's an initial longer versus the initial short, slightly different margin requirements, but they change based on the price of the asset. The Russell being more affordable. The Dow is also a little bit more affordable, $1,800 margin. NASDAQ is a little more expensive at $4,800 margin to get in. So sometimes I like to just trade like a little bit less expensive asset. And I'll tell you why. I'll explain. It might move slower, meaning the price of the Russell moves the same rate, but how much it impacts you is slower. So you're able to make a decision less emotionally, right? Because like if you're down $5 versus 500, you're going to make a kind of different choice, even though you shouldn't, but you do. You know what I mean? These are Solana futures. There's also micro Solana out there. Where's MSL? Here's micro Solana. That has a $1,400 margin. Also, it's pretty affordable to trade. It's at 80. And if you think that, if you think that Bitcoin will recover from here, right? This is a no-brainer. Why is Solana down at 80 while Bitcoin is back at 67? That's Bitcoin's up 0.5% and this is down 2%. That doesn't make any sense. Let's look at Ethereum while we're here. Ethereum is up. So Ethereum is back at 2062. And I mean, that looks like a good trade from 2000 back up to this, 2083 level on Ethereum. Now, can we see a bigger rebound? Maybe. Let's look at the daily on Ethereum. Now, Ethereum had Ethereum had this big downtrend, but we have channel 1 on the daily up. That's a good sign. That's the sign of a reversal. On the 4-hour, I would have liked to see channel 1 up, but that does mean we have the potential again for the reversal. What would I like to see? So if we're looking here, we zoom in, the bottom is closer to 1914, right? And then we would look for this big gap. Wow, look at that gap between 2200 and 2737. That gap is like, I don't even know, man. That's like, I don't know, New York City train gap kind of thing. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's go back to the S&P. See what it's doing. Little bounce up. Go to the 5-minute. Okay, so now we're trying to move up and establish the top of the range for the day, but we're not doing it yet. It's pulling back a little bit. It's holding. Okay, great. Let's look at the Russell. Russell. Oh, Russell, my friend. Yeah, look at that. Sideways, completely sideways. We're at the top here. I don't know. You think we're going to break over? Look at that. Big spike up. Let's give it like the first 5 minutes of the session, though, to see what happens, because this is like a barcode. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And I'm inclined to say down. Even though all of the indexes are pretty bullish today, do we continue? I don't know. Okay, let's take a look back here. The VIX is falling. Wow, the tick is skyrocketing. The tick is at 1,260. That's huge. That's a lot of money pouring into the market. That's what that means, right? The tick balance of what's being traded. Now, natural gas is pulling back a little bit. Gold is still going up. And what's going on with the euro? It's kind of holding there. Copper is pulled back off of the highs of the day. We're at 553. We were higher at 555 earlier. And let's see, Solana. Look at that. It's at 81.5. It's pushing up while Bitcoin is pushing up to 67,000. The Russell is at 2466 and pushing higher. Let's see. It's struggling. The Russell is struggling. Let's look at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is also struggling. It's not really making that move that I said it needed to make to break out of where we are, or it will kind of go down. Now, let's go back to Bitcoin and see what's happening with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's being kind of resilient here, up at 67,000. And that's usually an indicator for me of what the confidence of the market is, right? So if I see Bitcoin is up, I feel like the market is confident and that they're going to put money into the market. If Bitcoin does not go up, I feel like, no, maybe not. Maybe this isn't a good market to invest in. So right now, Bitcoin is really not kind of bringing up its tail. Now let's look at the Russell again, and it's doing what I thought it would, right? It's going right back down to the bottom. It was pushing up to the top here. Looked pretty exciting that it might cross over, but it didn't cross over. And that's why when I trade something like this, I look to get in at the bottom of the value area when the channels are pointing up. So at least you have this area to kind of capture some profit. Then you can put a tight stop loss and see if it continues to go across the value area gap. But if it doesn't, at least you made some money and you held that, so you didn't lose on the trade. Let's see, Teva Pharmaceuticals is up today a little bit. It's up to almost 1.83%. I think Teva Pharmaceuticals has a nice story. I'm looking for a reversal on Teva Pharmaceuticals. Nike has earnings. I'm expecting them to do well. When is their earnings? In a couple days after market. But I think they'll do well. What about Amazon? How's Amazon doing today? Amazon's up that 2 points, up to 205. Nothing new came in on my scanner yet. I might need more time before that fills in. Let's see if any more news came in today. Just oil up. There's an imbalance apparently in Moo. Moo is an ETF, and it's some sort of imbalance there. I'm not exactly sure what that means or how to explain it. All right, let's go back to the markets. Let's take a look at the sectors. Industrials is up slightly. Communications is up slightly. Building is up slightly. XLP is up slightly. Healthcare is up. Let's see, interesting that the utilities are pulling back, but energy is moving up. Financials is moving up. Technology is moving up. XLY is moving up. Yeah. Okay. All of these are moving up somewhat, but not strongly, and that's the problem. They're not breaking their trend. Let's see, financials up. If it could get to 49, that would be great, but it's not. It's pulling back. So all of this excitement, and I think we just fade out. I think we may end up having a lot of fade out. Oil at 103 is going to push everything else down eventually. Maybe not first thing this morning. So the name of the game is really, you have to be patient, right? You have to wait for your setup. So when I'm looking at the market and I'm not doing anything, it's because I have to wait for a setup. I can't just buy or just sell, right? So we're looking for that, like, when does it happen? 2468 on the Russell. It looks like we're really trying to push above this level. Can we do it? I don't know. First 5 minutes of the day, that generally tends to set a range for the day. And you say, well, look, my first 5 minute of my day today, put the range in where the high was at 2470 on the Russell and the low is 2460. The range now on the NASDAQ, we have 23,370 on the bottom, 23,460 on the top, right? So we're 60 points short of the top of the day, and we're off of the bottom. We're right in that middle of that band. I don't want to trade that, right? I think we go back down. But that would be against what those channels are saying. So can we do it? I don't know, but I have a feeling 10:30 reversal. 10:30 a.m. reversal in the market. You never know what's going to happen. It might pull back down. I don't have a trade here on the NASDAQ. Same deal in the S&P. No trade. So you can pull up this and just see if you see a trade, then you're ready for it. That's Solana's at 81.1. Bitcoin's holding 67.1. It's tempting, but I'd like to see, let's say, Solana break above 82, then maybe go long from there. I don't know. But so far, there's no trade. Man, my scanner doesn't have anything either. Indexes are all positive, nothing to do there. These are the worldwide indexes. You can just see overall how they've been doing. Yeah, it does not look good. There's a whole lot of strong selling there, right? Lot of strong selling on these indexes. So I think that's what's happening today. All right. So there you go. We don't have a long right now. I think we're just waiting and seeing. Waiting and seeing. All right, folks. I'm going to take a little break now, and I thank you for joining me this morning looking at the markets. I don't have any trades I'm going to make at the moment. If I do, I will post them in my WhatsApp group. And thank you. Have a great day. Remember, please, it helps the algorithm. Like, subscribe, make a comment, share it with your friends, and I look forward to making money with you tomorrow. Thanks. Have a great, great day. Okay, now I got to figure out how to turn this thing off. Woo-hoo. Bye now.